And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. It's been a while since we just sat down and chatted transfer commotion in MLS, in and out of MLS, to be fair. And it has heated up in the last couple of weeks. So we're just going to sit down. We're going to chat about some of the biggest news. We're going to keep it. This is very Designated Players season one-esque, right? Just chatting, me and Cone having a good time. I mean, actually, let me backtrack that because Cone wasn't here in season one because he was too good for us.
I
But
was
he's here.
here. Wait, sorry, I'm not supposed to speak.
You're not here yet. I didn't
Cut
introduce
it.
you.
Cut it.
Oh man, we're just gonna sit. We're gonna chat. We're gonna get some thoughts, guys. So strap in. We're gonna have some fun here. I'm Andrew. Here's Connor. Let's chat. All right. How we doing, buddy?
I was here, I think, for most of season one. I
You were
remember
here for
that. I
about
remember
half
our
season.
first episode talking about the kits.
That's right.
It's a wonder.
And
It's a wonder that the it's a wonder the podcast didn't just end right after that. Start off the
and
first
so
episode talking about kits.
I love listening to people who listen back to their first episode. Everybody says the same thing. Like, why did people keep listening to us? We were so bad.
Yeah,
But
episode one was a nightmare.
yeah, yeah. And remember that was back at the time when we were trying to like do separate recordings. Like we would record our audio and our videos separate, try to do all professional. I was like, screw that.
Yeah,
Oh
seriously.
man. One thing that has changed, considering your season one scarf collection, is it's gotten quite much. I can't even speak anymore.
Quite
It's gotten
much.
better, quite much better. Show us what you got, buddy.
Well, I wanted to bring out my Portland scarf. Unfortunately, I was denied by the boss. So we went for the backup plan, the Pride of Texas, with a meet in the middle, by the way. So points for you on that one. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it's on your wall already.
There it is.
It's always
Um,
a funny game watching you just be like,
yeah.
just
How
try to
can I
pull
have?
it through the camera.
Um, I you tried to pull timbers, but my timber scarf is cooler. I've got the mountain range.
That's those are fighting words. I will get the Portland scarf right now.
Meet in the middle tree. It's too good.
I think my Portland scarf might be better. No, I take it back. The badge is cool.
I like so
I don't,
I'm not saying
is it
yours
meet in
is
the middle
poor.
here? No, it's not.
No.
The meet in the middle is really cool. Look at
Yeah, I'm not saying yours is bad. I'm saying mine's better.
onward. Rose City.
Rose City, baby. RCTID.
But yeah, no, the mountain range is definitely better.
Yeah.
I take it
Um,
back.
that's okay. You're allowed to be wrong. You usually are, so I'm glad you're recognizing that. Let us dive right into this then, because we have a lot to cover. And I want to start. So, as I mentioned, I was doing some of these episodes, and I've got my thoughts shared on Heung-min Son and Thomas Muller. I just wanted to get, before we dive into the stuff, those are the biggest ones that have happened so far. Give you some time here to share your thoughts. What you got?
The Sun signing is unbelievable. I think that is an incredible signing for LAFC. I think he is going to be a marketing spectacular for them. They're going to make so much money just from that alone. But I also think he's going to be like a really good player for them on the field too. Like he's the type of player where he comes over, I don't have a hint of him being like, oh, I'm just going to collect a paycheck and jog around the field. Like he seems like a hard worker no matter where he goes. So that is very encouraging. Really looking forward to seeing what he does with LAFC. I really still think he has plenty to give. Thomas Muller, I think, could be another really good one too. I would say I'm less excited about him than I am the Sun one, but granted, that's the Sun one sets a high bar. I think Muller, depending on how he's used, could be like huge. And I'm glad that Vancouver is finally adding talent and not just getting rid of talent. Although you could make the argument that this is the Vite replacement, but I think it was a good time for Vancouver to finally put their chips in and bet on this team because they've been very good this year. So I'm excited to see what kind of role he plays because I think that will determine how successful he is. Because I think there is a high ceiling for him in the league, but he's got to be used correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I shared my thoughts. You can check out that episode already, but Heung-min Son is going to be, or Son Heung-min, I've learned is it's reversed. He is going to be worth all of the 20 million, 22 million, 26 million, whatever they paid for him. All of that and more is going to be well worth it. Not only is he going to be successful on the pitch, but you mentioned the marketing strategy, right? Like one of the things that I never even considered before recording that episode that then came back to me. Think about all the people that signed up for MLS season pass just for Messi. Take that and just move it over to Korea and Asia. That's what Sun is going to do for MLS season pass here. I mean, the people who were basically saying like we're not going to be able to get tickets to any game that Sun plays in ever because everybody who watches him from, the Koreatown in LA was one of the big ones they mentioned. There's like 320,000 of them. They're all going to buy those tickets, right? And then everybody overseas, I mean, even in the comments of our uh, content stolen video, the one that went over to Korea and got 60,000 views on my face, and he's translating it to the side. There were a few people who were like, "Oh, I'm upset he's going to MLS because it's a lower level," but everybody was like, "I'm watching MLS now. Like, I'm buying season pass and I'm watching it because I want to watch him play." I mean, it's such a huge connection and I'm really excited for that. Still not sold on Thomas Muller. A lot of people think that he's going to be perfect. He's going to tear the league up, and I'm excited to see it. I hope he does. But as I mentioned, it's for me, it's a now versus next year thing. Is he going to get in now? They're going to figure out how to use him, and he's going to give them, 10 goals in the last half of the season to make them push for the Shield. I don't know. Will he be great next year? Absolutely, no doubt. So I then wanted to move on to this this drama for Santi Moreno, who has just absolutely taken Portland for a ride. Basically, to summarize, he wanted to move to Fluminense in Brazil. Okay. To do that, he asked Portland to sell him. Portland said, "We're not going to sell you. We don't want to sell you, but if your valuation is met, we will sell you." He then I was trying to find the quote and I couldn't find it, but I very vaguely remember seeing something saying that he walked into Ned Grabovoy's office with his suitcase in hand and said, "I'm leaving, you better sell me." And then walked out the door and never came back. So he didn't show up for Portland's match. That was last week. That was in League Cup match. Timbers didn't want to sell. Moreno was going back to Colombia waiting for this to go through. And he just walked up and said, "Yep, I'm leaving." He got hit with an unexcused absence. He's working with MLS to figure this out. Fluminense then come back and say, "Okay, we'll meet your valuation. Here's 6 million. We'll take him." And Timbers got a sell-on fee. But my question is, did Portland cave? Did they, is this going to show other people who are like, "Oh, I don't want to be here anymore," that they can just pack it up and say, "I'm out," and then get their move regardless? Like, what are your thoughts on this? Because I thought this was wild.
I don't think it would necessarily say that to other people. I would think the only reason that went through is because they came back and met the valuation. However, I would think if they didn't meet the valuation, they would just let him sit in Colombia and do nothing. I don't think they would be like, we have to sell him. Like this is, we're just shedding money. Like, I mean, I guess technically they are. Like the more he sits and does nothing, the lower his value is going to go. But I don't think they would be like so pressed that they'd be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We have to like do a solution right now. Like if Fluminense calls and says they'll give us $5, we'll have to take it.
Mhm.
I think they would probably just let him sit for a while. Maybe like in the next transfer window, they'd have to sell him at a discount, but I don't think they would be pressed to sell him immediately. So I don't think it's sending any like sign to other players that they can just walk away and get a move. I mean, I guess it has happened before. It's not the first time this has happened.
Mhm.
I think of like Reynoso. Reynoso kind of did
That's
similar
exactly
stuff.
where my brain went. My brain went exactly to Reynoso saying like, "Yep, you better sell me because I'm just gonna hang out here in Argentina till you do."
Yeah.
Speaking
Which
of, by the way, where was he in Leagues Cup? Did he? He's still in Mexico, isn't he? You keep going. I'm gonna figure that out because I don't
he
remember seeing
did.
him at all.
Yeah, I think no, I think he might have left. I can't remember exactly. I do remember seeing his name somewhere, but it might have been leaving. But yeah, I mean, no, I think that's about it. I mean, like, I think it would be bad if it did start to become a trend. However, I don't think owners would cave too like quickly into it. I mean, I think I think the owners have proven that they're pretty money driven, money oriented. So they're not just going to be like, oh no, what are we going to do? Like, this is going to look bad for us. They're going to be like, no, we want to get our money's worth.
Hmm. Yeah, Reynoso's in Argentina. He went back to Argentina. No, and that was my thought here was exactly that. Like, oh man, this is going to set a bad precedent. It's really not, right? I think the Portland went straight to the league and was like, "Hey, we didn't let him leave, and he just walked out on us. What do we do?" And then they say, "Don't pay him." Right? You have a contract with him. In that contract, I'm sure it says if you have an unexcused absence, you don't get paid for that week, or you get fined or whatever. They wouldn't have to pay the guy, right? Basically, is the way that works, and or I assume that's the way it works. But I just don't love that. Well, actually, let me rephrase. What I do love is the fact that they held out until their valuation was met, right? Like you mentioned, they could have just said, "Oh, well, they offered four and we wanted six, and we settled on four just to get this press out the way." They stood there and they said, "Nope, you're either going to give us our money or we're just going to sit here and not play him until he leaves for free," right? Which would have been 2 years from now, I think, in 27. But yeah, I think it was the right move for Portland to hold out and get their 6 million, but it does come at a pretty tough time where they're pushing for the top four in MLS, and right now they're sitting in fifth, right? So they're 1 point out of fourth, they're 5 points out of third, right? And realistic, and not realistically, a long shot, they are 9 points out of the top of the West, right? Like having extra players there would have been great. Now they did sign a designated player winger to kind of fill in there. And that was more of the Jonathan Rodriguez replacement after he went on season-ending injury. And one of the things that I noticed there was, okay, well now you just let Santi Moreno go, who I believe was taking a DP spot.
He was not.
U22 then.
Yes, U22.
So they've got two, right? Jonathan Rodriguez on the season-ending injury, and then David Acosta. So they can still take this designated player, the winger that they had, flip into a 3-and-3 roster format next year, and be fine and dandy. There's no buying down. There's no anything like that. They get their money back from Moreno. Awesome, right? But I think it was really interesting the way this planned out because it didn't seem on the surface he was unhappy, right? It didn't seem like there was like, oh, Moreno is walking around the pitch. He's not happy to be here. It's time for him to go. Um, so I just thought it was an interesting way that went down, and yeah, definitely interested to see how that impacts some other things, right? And I don't think we're going to see this mass exodus of people who are like, I want to go to Europe, and if you don't sell me right now, I'm going to not play for you anymore. I think that's far and away not going to happen. But one of the things that almost happened with was Luciano Acosta, who at FC Cincinnati was trying to force his way out in preseason, right? He's trying to get himself to move over, and instead of moving to a South American team or European team, he ended up going to FC Dallas. And I thought it was pretty clear that he didn't want to be in MLS anymore. He was trying to go down. And then, wouldn't you know it, Fluminense come down, the same team that Santi Moreno just moved to, and was like, hey, we'll take you. Now, a lot less drama is the term I'll use, a lot less drama on this one. They get a deal in the region of 4 mil plus add-ons. Dallas gets a DP spot. Acosta goes back home. I guess my question is, what the heck happened in Dallas? Because this guy was an MLS MVP candidate, and then he goes to Dallas, and like we've spoken about, was kind of just fluttering out at the end. What the heck?
Yeah, he was, dare I say, abysmal in Dallas. Like a significant drop off, like crazy, crazy drop off level. Maybe that was a sign that he was a product of the FCC system. I don't know. I mean, it's not like he's had seasons when he was in DC where his numbers weren't exactly jumping off the board. It was really only one season where he had massive numbers for DC. And then he went to Cincinnati and he really lit it up. But maybe he was just a product in that Cincinnati system. Maybe once he left the system, it kind of exposed him a bit more. That's not to say he's not a good, obviously he's a good player. I think I had him like second in my top 10 attacking mids in like history or top five,
Yeah,
maybe
you
not
did.
second.
You
All right, settle
overhyped
down.
him for sure.
But I'm sure it was not difficult for Dallas in that case to collect some money on him and move him on and find a designated player that's going to fit the system better. So maybe it's a sign of, not necessarily just going for anybody that has talent, but making sure that the guy fits the system you're playing.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me is at the time he was the biggest cash for player trade in MLS in the very short lifespan of it, right? So you spend all this money to buy somebody from within the league, and now you have to take a hit on his transfer away. It is kind of one of the things, and one of the reasons I want to talk about this was the idea that you've got you've got an idea behind the, oh, how do I put this nicely? Like the heirs of Liga MX, if you will, right? Where people are just buying players for too much money in the league, they overvalue them, and then you either need to take a hit or let him leave for free, or just keep moving him around the league, right? And because MLS has this reputation of being a buy and sell league, people, if you don't get sold out the league, are going to be very upset with you. So you can't just go to Liga MX like, oh, I'll play for Club America, then for Tigres, and for Pumas, and blah blah blah. Like if you go from Cincinnati to Dallas when you were supposed to go from Cincinnati to PSG, right? Going with the Acosta lore, you're going to be upset about it. So it's one of those errors that you're not going to be able to make this work where Liga MX is paying $15 million for players in their own league. It's just not going to work that way. You have to balance that out somehow. So I'm really interested to see how this shakes up the cash for player market, right? Are people going to stop dropping all this money on somebody who within a year they're going to have to take a 50% hit on?
No, it's a great point. I mean, I think it's a really good point of pointing out that this is a good example of, as you said, teams potentially spending way too much money without properly doing enough homework and heading into bad territory of bad spending. But I think right now it's a good introduction that it's in a more controlled environment that you're not just going to blow it out of the water and have a NASL part two.
Right, right. Well, and again, it's still controlled. It's still, central to the league, so it's not that out of the question. But yeah, it's a fall from grace for Luciano Acosta, which is heartbreaking, really, because he was so good at Cincinnati. But I think that does speak to Dallas has a little bit more of their issues than anything else. But yeah, very interested to see how that impacts transfers in the future. And speaking of that, our friends Middlesbrough are back. And I figured
Friends,
you would have had a Middlesbrough scarf for
friends.
your comments, as a an apology here. After
Apology for
taking
what? For being right?
for pissing off our friends in England. The
You love to piss
the
them off.
I never once. I am very good friends with the Euro snobs. The they after the very successful Aiden Morris move, which everybody agrees was the right decision. They came back for Max Arfsten, and they had a $3 million bid turned down swiftly and immediately, according to Tom Bogert. Right move, wrong move. Just remember, you may get clipped here. So let's have some respect and some decorum, if you will.
Yeah, that doesn't get views on the clips. Um, I still stand by the fact that I think Aiden Morris is too good for Middlesbrough, but teach their own. You can clip that and post it again. I think however, insert the meme of the ref. However, I actually would really like the move for Arsenal to Middlesbrough, like a lot more, because we're talking about two different qualities of players, right? Like, yes, they're coming from the same team, kind of a similar situation, like grew as a player through the crew. However, we're talking about, again, I'm using however too much. We're talking about Aiden Morris, who was a guy that right before his move, we were talking about as a team of the season player. Max Arfsten, for as much as he's had a rise this season, to me, is not in the conversation as a team of the year player. So I think Arfsten is a good landing spot for a championship side. And I think Middlesbrough is one of the slightly better championship sides. I don't necessarily think that they're, a threat to like win the league, but I think that they're capable of making it into the playoff. And the biggest thing for me, because Max Arfson is a very system, what's the right way to say this? His
System-based player.
success is very system based,
Yeah.
is the way I'll say it. Because I think he proved with USMNT he cannot be relied upon week in week out in a back four. He needs to be a wing back, and Middlesbrough play with three center backs and wing backs, or however you want to consider it. Maybe they consider them left mids, right mids, whatever. So I think he would fit in perfectly on that team. And I think it's a good, I think the quality level is very good for him. So I would be happy to see him go there. I'm also happy that Columbus rejected the bid because I think they can get a little bit more for him.
I'll have you know, Middlesbrough tied for first in the league right now. So talking about they can't win the league. They are literally within touching distance, and I would like some respect. Okay? I would like some respect. You know who was right? The guy who
Who?
said that Derby County wasn't going to be competing for many top spots. It might be in a relegation battle. You know where they are? 23rd out of 24th. Yeah. Yeah.
You,
Let's talk about who knows ball and who's a Euro snob. Okay? Let's make this clear, okay? God, I love this. I love it so much. We just
there's
need to
the
talk.
intro clip right there.
We need a championship pod. That's what we need. We need to go in and just talk about everything we know about the championship, which is
Which is nothing.
nothing.
We know
and just
nothing.
and just talk so confidently. Because you know what? That's how the USMNT Twitter gets started. You don't know anything, but if you say it confidently enough, people believe you. So we could be a championship pod.
We
Spin-off.
could be the USMNT equivalent of the championship, which
Spin-off.
I love that.
Spin-off.
I love that.
Oh man. Listen, the biggest thing for me is that I believe that this, first off, put the USMNT Twitter into a tizzy, which we love. We love to see these things, right? Because 3 weeks ago, Max Arfsten should have never put the jersey on for USMNT ever again. I mean, if you even had the thought that he should be a USMNT player in anything but Camp Cupcake, you didn't know ball and you were out of your mind. But the second that Columbus Crew say no, we're not going to do that in the current part of our season, everybody on USMNT Twitter is apparently finding out that MLS is holding back their most promising players from reaching their potential and all this other stuff. Pick a side, losers. Do you understand? Like, what are we doing? You either are against him being on the USMNT, or you think he's promising and has potential. But you can't have both sides of the equation. You can't. I that blew my mind. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about this, and want to get your thoughts, was regardless of the calendar situation, because people are coming out and be like, oh well, with the calendar and the way the calendar is set up, this is one of the downfalls is that teams aren't selling their players before the playoff push. Some may say that's a good thing, and I say that's a good thing. The idea that teams are now saying, yep, instead of having an MLS team say, "Yep, we're going to take a quick payday for a kid to go to Europe who is our one of our most prolific attackers right now." In the middle of our playoff push, in the middle of our shield chase, in the middle of our quest for another MLS Cup, we're going to hold him so that we can win games. Plain and simple. I love that because that is what MLS 4.0 needs to look like. Regardless of what the calendar looks like, regardless of who we're bringing in, big names, whatever, MLS needs to start prioritizing themselves, winning games and putting priority on the league. Because one of the things that I believe is that if you have a group of, I'm going to use the term casual fans, who are watching your team for a year and say, oh my God, this Max Arfsten guy is great, or insert any other really good player here. And then right as you're about to go into a playoff push, you sell him for relatively a bucket of balls and, a bag of chips. They're instantly gonna be like, this league isn't serious, right? We're about to go try and win a couple of trophies, shields, whatever. And you're selling our best players because, why? Why would I support this team then? Because nobody else does that. We wouldn't, Man City wouldn't sell Erling Haaland in the last 10 games of their push to the Premier League title, right? Like that's the sort of mindset you have to go with. So the more that we put our emphasis on our league and winning leagues and winning trophies and being a good team, I think the better that is for retention of the fan, I guess, for lack of a better term.
I mean, I think it's a double-edged sword. I agree with what you're saying in that we shouldn't just be 100% a selling league where we just sell any transfer that we get anytime you get a semi-decent offer, regardless of what's going on in the league. But I also do think like we're talking about issues if we're consistently getting lower prices in the winter months because we're only willing to sell then. And I think you would theoretically I think you would most likely get worse prices in the winter months because teams are just not willing to spend as much in the middle of the season.
By the way, this is not me defending against a calendar change, by the way. Like, I'm not saying, like, oh, we should do this because now we have, no, change the calendar. And then when people want to go buy your players, they're paying, premium prices end of the season. You don't have to worry about it. That's one of the positives of the calendar change. I'm not here defending the fact that we have a different calendar because of something like this. But at the end of the day, right? Like, I think to me, if we were to change the calendar and line up with everything, it would be beneficial to us to say we have a valuation for this player you need to meet, and if you don't meet it, we are going to keep him, and we don't really care. Because that to me, I don't think people like to support teams that are just constant. And I again, from a Red Bull perspective, I don't think teams love to support teams that are just constantly flipping over to sell to Europe or to sell to South America or whatever. Because at that point, what's the point if you are constantly finishing ninth, 10th, third, fourth, and you don't actually care about winning the trophy? And I'm not saying Columbus doesn't care about winning the trophy. We know they do. But in the grand scheme of MLS, if you've got teams that are just here to be talent producers for a national team or whatever, you don't get that fan retention and you don't get to climb as a league. So I'm always all for keep the player until your valuation is met and until your needs are met, right? You have a backup in place, or you have a backup coming in. You're in a position where it's not going to hurt you in the league or your title chase. All of those boxes get checked. Okay, now you can move on, right? That's kind of my thought is if somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I want Arfsten for 5 million," but you think that it's going to pay off more down the line if he's with you to win trophies and stuff, and you go that route is kind of my thought process there.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
very cool. So yeah, let us know what you think about that. Make sure you're following us on social media so you can share your thoughts there so we can get a whole group of people interacting with us. Just look up the DP pod wherever you get your podcasts and social media, you'll find us. But I want to continue on then with the idea of more USMNT players coming back to MLS. Matt Turner has come home to New England and is currently starting as we record in his first game back against DC United. So he comes back from Lyon after this really weird transfer going from the club he was at to Lyon kind of almost fell through, didn't work because Lyon got financially relegated. It was a whole nightmare in France, but they had already signed off to say we're going to take him on loan, or we're going to sign him permanently. They then loan him directly to New England through June 2026 with a purchase option. So right now he's on a DP deal, but he will be a TAM player in 2026. So as the World Cup's coming, he is going to be a TAM player, right? Obviously, the big talking point here, one, outside of does he deserve the DP tag? They weren't going to use it on anybody else. That's not really a big deal to me, but this signals the first of a few moves of players not getting time in Europe coming back to MLS to get time before the World Cup. Do you think it's a good move and should more people do it?
I mean, it's a good move for Turner, I think, especially considering the goalkeeper spot is so wide open. I think game time and people in form is going to be big. I think Stefan has done well for himself to get back in the picture by coming to MLS. So I would think Turner is going to be in a similar fashion here, where if he comes here, gets good game time, starts to build confidence again, gets in form, it's going to make all the difference when it comes to picking not only making the World Cup roster, but also, getting game time and being a starter. From a New England perspective, it almost feels like they're just doing him a favor because the move to me doesn't really make sense for them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for one, they've got a lot of work to do to try to make the play in or the playoffs. And two, defensively was not where they needed to make up that ground. It was
Yeah.
the attacking side of the ball. They're just not scoring goals. So, if that is the case, if maybe this is the long-term play, like you said, you get him for next year. He's on a TAM deal, so you open up that DP spot again. Then maybe it makes more sense, and that's most likely their thinking here is, maybe this transfer right here is kind of waving the flag and saying, all right, we're going for next year. But that's got to be the only justification. Otherwise, if you're doing this move with the intent to be successful this year, I think it's the wrong decision.
Yeah, and I think we can talk about it two ways, right? I think, and that's something I didn't even think about was did he even need this move to New England? I think he absolutely needed the move, but did New England need him? Probably not, right? Ivicic was fine. I think somebody was saying that he was top three in shutouts and saves and save percentage, all the good goalkeeper stats. Now, I agree with you. I don't think that the defense was the issue. Now, I think they've got issues all over the shop, but you didn't need to have him. So to bring him back, and I had this conversation with a few people on Twitter where some of them were like, nope, this is going to be a good move for us. If he comes in and is just a little bit of a leader in the locker room, holds things down and does really well, it's well worth whatever we're paying him, right? And there were others that were like, this is kind of stupid. Like, why are we bringing him back? We've already got this spot here. We don't need to put all this money into a goalkeeper. Blah 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 blah. I am just kind of going to watch it and see how it plays out. I don't know if they necessarily needed him, but he's back, right? The bigger focus that I had on it was the idea of U.S. men's national team players coming back to get minutes, right? Mauricio Pochettino has made it very clear that if you are performing and performing well at a high level and you get called into camp and you continue to perform, we don't really care what's going on. You will play and you'll be on the roster, right? So if there are other players, and I'll be quite frank, I have nobody who I can think of right now off the top of my head who kind of needs that move. But my first thought is a bunch of center backs who, we still haven't found a center back. We still haven't found a backup left back, right? Caleb Wiley just got his move to Watford, so that's not happening. John Tolkien's getting a move to some other German team, I think. So that probably won't happen. But and again, I don't know. I don't know if there are any other center backs out there who might be on the outside looking in. Again, I don't have a good feel of that, but there might be some players out there who are thinking, man, if I can get a move back, maybe that increases my chances. And again, I think we've had that conversation before where it isn't the worst thing in the world to come back and get minutes, right? We saw Zach Steffen do it. We're now seeing Matt Turner do it. There are people there who have shown that it's not bad to be in MLS to get minutes and to get reps, because at the end of the day, playing is better than not playing at all.
Yeah, I mean, one guy that I think of, and it's kind of dependent on if the rumored move goes through, is, and I know this is going to cause a stir for
Oh,
absolutely
I know exactly
everybody.
where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah, Gio Reyna.
Yep. That's fair.
He is currently rotting on the Dortmund bench, and as much as I agree that Bundesliga is much better than Major League Soccer, I would much rather see him play in Major League Soccer than rot on the bench at Dortmund. Now, obviously, there's rumors of him going to Parma, and if that move goes through, that's great for him. I think Serie A is a better league than Major League Soccer at the moment, so it's better competition for him. But if that falls through and he's still at Dortmund, please, like, just at this point, send him to some team in Major League Soccer. Like, let him get some game time somewhere. I don't want to see Gio Reyna playing 300 minutes this season prior to going into the World Cup.
Well, and by the way, right, Parma's a great move. Yeah, Serie A is a bit better and Bundesliga's a bit better. Being on the bench doesn't do anything for you anymore. And I know people are probably going to be disagreement there, but we've seen it before. Like, you are not better than your compatriots playing in games, regardless of what league they're in. You
Well,
just
look at Turner and Steffen. Like they were on the
right.
bench in the Prem, and then they completely fell off.
Yeah, great point, right? And that's the whole thing is you cannot sit here and tell me that it is better for them to be training in Europe than it is to be playing in MLS, as long as you're playing at a high level. And that's what, that's always been the conversation was, there are better MLS players to take than some, like Nathan Harriel should not have been in the Gold Cup squad. There are better MLS players to get, right? But the point is you have to have a high level, period, right? So yeah, I agree. Get Gio Reyna back here. That tells you how much I remember him even, being a part of this, by the way. Couldn't even wrap my head around it. Get him back to MLS, right? Get him. Listen, you know who needs some help right now? DC United. You know who needs good service? Christian Benteke. Heck yeah. Get him in the nation's capital. Go for it.
No, please
Uh,
put him on a better team than that.
no, let's
Please.
manifest him to DC.
No, let's not.
Well, listen, DC's now losing to New England right now. Time to manifest
Yeah,
greatness.
if they hadn't done it already, I would totally have manifested him to Portland as your Jonathan Rodriguez replacement or
Nice,
substitution.
nice.
Or what about how about Delas? Delas has an opening now.
I want him on Montreal. They've been saving up so
Why do
many
you hate
DP
him?
spots.
Why do you hate him? You said
I
Montreal
want
and DC United.
I want him to be challenged. I don't want him to go on some cushy
He's already been
FC
challenged.
Cincinnati or LAFC to say, "Oh, look at me while everybody else is good." I want him to go be a dog. I want him to go be the best player on a bad team and bring them to the brink of greatness. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Sorry, this is a really random cut here, but we actually had some major technical difficulties here at the end, where actually our entire recording just cut out and computers died and internet went out. It was a whole big nightmare. But we're actually going to end the video right here, the episode right here. So thank you so much for listening and or watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you're following us wherever you get your podcast so you know when our next episode goes live. We still have tons of other transfers and rumors to go through, including Jordi Mihailovic going to Toronto, Milan Iloski going over to Philly, Rapids changing the idea of what a center back can be in MLS, go and get Rob Holding. And also now there's rumor that Tani Oluwaseyi had a move turned down to go to a top 10 La Liga side. And we're going to talk about all of that next week when we get back together to chat again. So thanks so much again for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.